What in our lives is burnt in the fire of this? The heart's dear granary? The much we shall miss? 3 lives hath 1 life, iron, honey, gold. The gold, the honey gone, left is the hard and cold. Iron are our lives, molten right through our youth, a burnt space through ripe fields, a fair mouth's broken tooth. Yeah, the poet to August 1914 is Isaac Rosenberg. He was a British Jew living in England at the time of World War I. He actually was a painter in addition to being a poet. He joined the military and he ended up moving to South Africa. He came back to fight in the war in World War I, and he wrote this poem I believe it was in the summer of 1916 on the Western Front in France. I think, I don't know if I could prove it, but I think myself that a lot of his experience as a painter is what brings out the imagery, the vivid imagery in his poetry, especially in this poem. One of the sad things about the poet, actually, and the poem, is the true life story that he himself was a victim of war. He was killed after finishing a night patrol on the Western Front in the morning. He was killed and buried in a mass grave. So it's a very sad, real story about the poet, Isaac Rosenberg. Well, actually, I approach this piece the way I typically do any of my vocal pieces, choral or solo vocal, where I really spend some time just with the poem. So I read through the poem many times, thinking, are there any very important sections or sections that are more important than others? In this poem, it really really threw me for a loop in that there's no like one large section that is like the height of the poem. It seems the whole poem is just drenched in all of this meaning. I mean, the poet starts with these 3 questions, which really could be asked at any time. It's almost as if he's asking us now, what are we missing from war? What is burnt in the fire of war? This could be something we're asking today about the wars in Iraq, Afghanistan, or anywhere over the world. So that really spoke to me. And then he goes into really vivid detail and imagery, painting the iron, the honey, the gold of life, the fact that all of these good parts of life are gone when war is in the situation, as it often is. So we're left with the cold, we're left with this burnt space through life. I really just tried to let that text speak to me and tried to not be depressed. It's very, very sad text. But the more that I thought about it, I think it brought me to ideas that would be either jarring or just dissonant, not necessarily that they wouldn't be beautiful to be performed, but that they would create some kind of anxiety, some angst in the listener because of the imagery in the poem. I was thrilled at what I heard just right away. They read through the piece and they really brought so much to it right from the beginning. So I knew right away that I was going to be lucky to be working with this wonderful ensemble that would really bring a lot to the music, a lot artistically, technically, just bring a lot of the meaning of the poem and the music across. So we worked through it, and in that workshop, I was given the chance to speak directly with the musicians and with Dr. Hansen. I asked some questions about things that I wanted to see if they could try, and Dr. Hansen asked me questions to clarify different things, and the singers at the end, actually, at the end of the whole rehearsal, they each specifically had several questions for me. We spoke about technical things, about our artistic things, but we actually spent a good amount of time just talking about the poem itself and what it means to be thinking about a war poem like this today. This piece, August 1914 in particular, is a little bit different for me style-wise. I really went with the text, so it led me to places that I wouldn't normally go, dissonance-wise, and really more through composed-wise. My influences are, well, a lot of teachers that I've had, in particular Darren Hagen, who's a Wisconsin native and a composer who's had pieces performed by MCA before. He's one of the great living American opera composers. And his teacher, who is Ned Rorem. When I first studied with Darren, I didn't realize that Ned Rorem was his teacher. Probably should have realized why I liked both of their music. It was because they had that in common. So if I'm lucky, any of that is rubbed off on me. But they're some of my major influences. I've also been influenced by choral music and liturgical music of Goretzky and John Tavener, and some instrumental music of like John Corigliano's. Well, I hope it makes everybody think. Some people might have a specific point of view that they want to get across artistically, maybe to make people vote or not vote a certain way. That's not really my take. I think that I'd be more interested in having people just think about what they want to do before they do, something I certainly hope I do. And I think the topics of war and peace, and in particular this August 1914, it's painfully relevant to the situations we deal with today. So I hope that would mean something to people and influence the way